Hello people, I'm Slim, and you're watching the Slim Bob YouTube channel. So you've decided to put an amplifier in your car. You've got your speakers, you've picked out the amplifier. Now what about the wiring? There's 0 gauge, 4 gauge, 8 gauge. There's all these fuse holders, distribution blocks. What do you pick? We are going to figure that out today. I'm going to teach you the right kind of wire to use for your build. But before we get into that, just wanted to take a second and to ask you, if you like these videos, you want to do more stuff like this, throw a like on the video. Trying to get some more subscriptions. Subscribe down there, hit the little bell for notifications when I put out new videos. Write a comment down there if you want to know how to pick the right whatever. Tell me down there. We'll do a video on it, and we'll help you get yourself set up with the best stuff for you. Now, getting into the wiring, there are a ton of different kinds, brands, sizes, colors, all kinds of stuff for wires out there for car audio. But it all depends on your particular build. First, let's get into size. Size can be anywhere from 8 gauge to 4 gauge to 0 gauge or even bigger. But what's right for you? Well, it all comes down to what kind of power you're using, what kind of power you're running, what kind of amplifier you've got, how many amplifiers you've got. Are you going to have a distribution block? Are you running multiple amplifiers? There's an easy way to figure it out. I'll throw a chart in that's readily available online. We'll put it up right here. And this is a quick way to determine what size wire you're going to want for the amount of power that you're going to be using. Now, we're not going to get into alternators and batteries and capacitors and lithium versus dry cell. We're not going to do any of that today. We're just going to talk about wire. So to determine, based on that chart, what kind of wire you're going to use, you need to know how much power your amplifier is going to be drawing. You can see the distances on there. But what is amps? How many amps does your amplifier draw? That's a good question. There is a mathematical formula for it. I've got it written down right here. So as per Crutchfield's website, Crutchfield, one of the first car audio websites to hit the internet. They've got all kinds of great resources out there. Diagrams for your vehicle, picture how-tos on how to take your dash apart for a new head unit or replacing the speakers in your doors. If you've never visited Crutchfield, I use them for a lot of different stuff. I can't figure out something absolutely head there. Check them out. They've got a lot of great resources. But as per Crutchfield, the amps that your amplifier is going to draw is equal to the power divided by the voltage. We're going to make that really simple, okay? The amps that your amplifier is going to draw is going to be power divided by voltage. Now the power is going to be your wattage. The amplifier's wattage output, RMS. Not peak, not max, RMS. Constant output wattage. Now on a Class D amplifier, you got to imagine though that this wattage is only going to be 75% efficient. On the Class AB, you're only going to be about 50% efficient. So, we'll make this really easy for you, okay? Say you've got a Class D 1000 watt RMS amplifier, okay? You take that 1000 watts and you divide it by 0.75. That's going to give you 1333 actual output from that amplifier were it to be 100%. When you take that 1333 and you divide it by the voltage of your vehicle, typically 14 volts with the alternator running, you're going to come to about 95 amps. That's where you're going to be on the chart. That's the formula that you're going to use to figure out how many amps your amplifier is going to draw. If you have any questions about that, ask them down in the comments. I'll try to explain it a little further. But 1000 watt Class D amplifier, best case scenario, 75% efficient-ish, going to pull about 95 watts, as per Crutchfield's equations. Class AB amplifier is going to be about 50% efficient, so 1000 watt output at RMS is going to be actually about 2000 watts. You divide that by your 14 volts, it's going to give you 143-ish amps. So Class AB is going to probably require a little bigger wire. But the size wire isn't the only thing that goes into figuring it all out. These are both 0 gauge power wires. They're most certainly not created equal. The two of these differ in one simple way, other than the brand and all that stuff. The blue one is OFC, that's oxygen-free cable. The red one, CCA, that's copper-clad aluminum. Copper-clad aluminum will not handle the same amount of power as an OFC cable. If you're going to run a 4-gauge cable, for example, and you opt to get CCA for the amount of power, you might as well double it in size and go with 0 gauge. CCA just won't handle the same amount of power over the distance, which is why your oxygen-free is going to be more expensive. So if you do your math and you come up with needing 4-gauge cable, no problem. That's what your amplifier needs. But that's going to be 4-gauge oxygen-free. 4-gauge oxygen-free is going to be about the same as 0-gauge CCA. So keep that in mind when you're out there buying your cable. This stuff can come up to $7 a foot. It can be expensive. But so is your equipment, your amplifier, your subwoofer, the box, the install. It's all expensive. Don't cheap out on your cables. What I was going to say is it's like having a powerful car and putting cheap tires on it. Don't cheap out on the cabling. All you're doing is robbing your expensive and hard-earned system of the power it needs to perform at its maximum. It's as much a part of your audio system as the amplifier, as the speakers, as the subwoofers, the box, the tune, the everything. Your fuse blocks, distribution blocks. One thing that's always stuck in my head, gold is bad. They only color it gold most of the time so that you buy it because it's pretty. Don't buy things because they're pretty, or don't buy things only because they're pretty, okay? Go with a car company, car audio company that's got a name behind them. Do some research. Follow them on Instagram. Go look up some of their YouTube videos. See some of the stuff that they've done. If they've got followers behind them that are making these big builds and they're making they're producing the output, go with those guys. You do see a lot of small companies selling $25 amp kits at big box stores. You know what? If you're really wanting the maximum output from the equipment that you bought, probably not the wiring to get. Talk to sales guys, talk to dealers that deal solely in car audio or in 12 volt. They're going to know what works. They're going to know what doesn't work. And for the most part, in my experience, they're not going to sell you something that you don't need. Can't speak for everybody, of course, but any of the car audio sales guys and dealers that I've ever talked to, of course they want to sell their brand, but they're going to be honest with you. If you need 0 gauge, they're going to tell you need 0 gauge. If you go in, I've had them tell me before, oh, you've got CCA wiring, you're gonna get more power out of your amplifier just by upgrading the wires. It's as simple as that. So make sure you choose the right wire for your build, or you're robbing your equipment of what it can possibly do. And you can't necessarily judge it by its looks. These are both 0 gauge. Obviously they're both blue. This one's OFC, this one's CCA. Not really an easy way to just check it off the bat. Do your research. Get your, get your keyboard fingers a-flying and go figure out what's good stuff. And you know what? Is this bad cable? No, it's not bad cable. It's made by a great company, but it's a lesser expensive option. There's a market for that. But if you're trying to output the most for what you're buying, I always say OFC is the way to go. I'm going to put that chart up here one more time. Take a screenshot if you want. Pause it, print it, whatever you want to do. Keep this with you. But this is the chart that I go by to determine what kind of wiring I want to do. I'm not going to name any brand names for these wiring. Maybe you see it on there, but it's not sponsored in any way. This is all wiring I just had laying around. Not sponsored by Crutchfield either. But yeah. So hopefully with this, you can choose the best wiring for your build, for whatever you're wanting to do. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer anything you've got out there. But I think that's going to do it for this time. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, you can check them out both here and here. I'd really love it if you shared it with people. But until next time, we'll see you later.